In this video, we're going to be talking about the art of slowing down. Recently, I've decided to take on the quality of slowing down. I've always been someone who has been moving very quickly, I talk very fast, and it's been actually a superpower for me because it allows me to get a lot done in a little amount of time. But I've noticed that it doesn't provide for attention to detail as so much, and I end up tripping over myself and making mistakes, some small, some bigger. And it got to a point where I literally dropped a table, and I'll share that story in a bit just to explain. But because of that moment, it changed my mindset to, I need to slow down. I've heard this pattern over and over again of people just saying, Zach, you need to slow down. Whether I'm saying something too quickly and people aren't getting it, or I'm just moving physically too quickly. There's something about this nature of just moving quickly in this Western world that I've been kind of pushed in that direction. But the funny thing is, life is so precious and it's worthwhile taking in every moment and really slowing down. And the more I grow on my journey, the more I value the idea of what's called a bal seichel, but thinking through everything you're doing in a deep way. And it provides for new levels of understanding and just, it's a completely different way of living. So last week I was in Tzfat, my yeshiva and I, we all went on a big group trip and it was an incredible trip. And at the very end, Saturday night, we're packing up to leave. The bus is outside and I have my stuff, I'm about to take it down to the bus and we're trying to make everything work in terms of time. My rabbi looks directly at me and there was this table, there was this this marble-like table, and it was in the middle of the room, and we pray on Shabbat. Well, we pray every day 3 times a day, but on Shabbat, we pray with the Torah. So we moved this big, heavy marble table to the center of the room, and then we put the Torah on it, we pray, and then it was still there until after Shabbat. So my rabbi says, hey, Zach, can you return this Torah? So I'm like, absolutely, I would love to. So I look at the table, it's pretty surmountable. So there was one of my friends on the couch over there. So I look at him and I say, hey, we'll call him Mark for the purpose of this story. Hey, Mark, can you help me move this table? And I look at him and he's playing with the kid. He says, yeah, of course. And he's not being really sincere. He's playing with the kid. And I'm looking at my watch. It's been about 90 seconds and I'm trying to wait. So I say, hey, Mark, you said you'd help me move the table. Can you help me move the table? And he said, yeah, sure. So he's still playing with the kid. Nothing's happening. And eventually I lose it, and I just say, you know what, I'm gonna do this myself. Have you ever been there? And I take this big table, and I lift it up, and it's very heavy. It's made, it looks like it's like fully marble or something like a similar material. And it was so wide that I had failed to see that it was actually a two-piece of furniture, and it was disconnected from its base. So I start moving forwards, and the table's moving forward, but my legs are staying in the same place, and I'm worried, like, what's happening? And before I know it, I come tumbling down to the ground. The table breaks into 100 pieces. And I'm on the ground, embarrassed, beating myself up internally. You stupid idiot. Why'd you do that? Why didn't you wait? I was just beating myself up. And the first person who sees me fall is my rabbi. And this person I have been building a strong relationship with for the past year. And it meant so much to me that I was seen in a positive light. I don't care what most people think of me, but this person who has been intimately involved in my life, I wanted it to be a good experience. I want it to be, I want to be perceived as the guy who can handle it all. But there I am on the ground, crashed with 100 pieces. And, it took about 2 minutes for people to come, find me and pick me up. And it was really nice of them. People were asking me how I was. My back definitely hurt a little bit from the fall, but for more or less I was okay. I was more disappointed in myself because fundamentally there was one thing I could have done to prevent this: slow down. And it made me think, what made me drop the table? And then I look back at my life and there were so many moments of moving quickly and just not giving my time to process and switch into the next thing. So I was in my therapist's appointment last week as well, and we talk about the concept of transition points. So whenever you're changing context, it's good to give your brain a little bit of time to process that you've changed. And he gave an example of when he moved to Israel and he took a driving test. This driving test was a pretty brutal guy, and they would take him on these like long adventures and then say you failed. But he looks at my therapist. This is back when he first moved to Israel, and he sits in the car. He goes into the car, and then he starts checking the mirrors, making sure everything is clear, making sure the seat's in a good position. And all of a sudden, the driver is getting impatient, or the guy who's testing him is getting impatient. He's like, "Why aren't you moving?" And he's like, "This is the process. I gotta make sure that everything is good. I like to check my mirrors before I drive." And then he drove one block, and the guy said, "You're good. You're good. You're fine." Why? He wasn't making sure he was, going to make every turn perfectly. He wanted to see if he was there, if he made that transition, if he was thinking through the fact that he was driving and he was aware and he was, that was the key element of that story. And I'm very lucky because there is a mitzvah. I wouldn't say it's fully a commandment, but it's a practice that we do, a transition point of sorts. Whenever we go to the bathroom, whenever we wake up in the morning, usually when we start praying, when we're moving into a different element of the day, we have this practice of washing our hands, which is called Nagelwasser. And we do it 6 times, 1, 2, 3 on each side. And sometimes with a prayer, sometimes with not. But it's been one of those habits that I've been completely ignoring. I'll just quickly wash my hands and move on to the next thing, because there are some opinions that you don't even have to do this. But I decided, no, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3. And during that time, I'm going to just process the fact that I'm changing into another scene, whether I'm going to pray, whether I'm going to the bathroom, whether something is changing and I'm moving from a different point of transition. And while you don't have to take on this habit, it's worthwhile to consider what are the transition points in my life, what are my daily habits. And that allows you to just take a second to breathe and realize that you're living life in this beautiful existence. And before you know it, it's all temporary. And we're on a continuum here, and there's no hitting the pause button on life. You can hit a pause button on this video, but you can't hit a pause button on life. And it's so important to get that. And that's something I'm building right now too, in slowing down. And slowing down has a lot with it, right? It's not just physically slowing down, it's mentally slowing down. If you have ADHD like me, then your mind also runs at 1,000 miles per hour. And you have like a lot of associations, a lot of thoughts in a given day. So just slowing down and letting yourself soak in that energy and just breathe. Think through different activities and not be so jumpy. This is what I'm working on right now. Whether I'm out in the marketplace or I'm around a bunch of different people, and I slow down just to process where I'm at and appreciate and soak in that moment. Whether I'm walking down in a public area and I'm just appreciating all those people around me, or whether I'm just sitting on a bench and I'm drinking a coffee. In all these situations, you can take a second to be mindful and slow down and process, what am I doing? And the more you think through things, the less you're gonna make careless mistakes. And I was one to make careless mistakes all the time in my life. And I'm not saying I'm perfect or I'm, at this point in my life either. I'm for sure still working on it. But I know that if I slow down, then everything is going to speed up in terms of my success. And I have a feeling that if you're watching this and you can relate, then give it a try. Slow down today. Slow down tomorrow. And see where life takes you.